Dexter Morgan is one of the most careful killers in fiction. So why doesn't he wear a mask? Or more accurately, why did he stop wearing one after the very first episode? He commits murder on a regular basis, breaks into homes in broad daylight, yet he walks around with his face fully exposed. Most people would call that a dumb mistake, but it's quite the opposite. A smart take. And the reasoning behind it boils down to this. A mask hides your face, but it reveals your intent. People simply just don't put on a mask unless they are about to do something they don't want anyone to see. Usually something that could get them into trouble with the law. And besides making someone stick out like dog's balls, a mask also makes who's ever wearing it look like a threat, which would instantly alert anyone being approached, since the association with covered up faces and unlawful behavior is so strong. However, this fear of dangerous looking people also tends to make us trust the opposite. If someone looks totally normal and isn't afraid of being seen, we assume they must be harmless and have nothing to hide. And that's exactly what Dexter takes advantage of. He shows his face, but hides his intentions. There are just so many scenes in Dexter where he does insanely illegal stuff right out in the open with people just a few feet away. And he gets away with it by not trying to hide. So let's break down a couple of scenes and ask the question, would a mask actually make him safer, or would it end up getting him caught? The first scene I picked out is from season 7 episode 12 when Dexter injects Hector Estrada with M99 and throws him in his trunk. Pretty much everything about this scene is risky. There are people everywhere, Dexter is interacting with the two kids, he is using his own car, and Estrada leaves his belongings on the bench before he gets abducted. But this only works because Dexter blends in. Now let's imagine that exact moment, but with Dexter wearing a mask. First of all, there is absolutely no way Dexter would be able to walk up to those kids and pay them to lure Estrada to his car without being noticed and chased away by bystanders. But for the sake of the argument, let's say he somehow still manages to do it, and he throws Estrada in the trunk. Because he didn't try to hide his face, this couple seen in the background didn't have any reason to acknowledge Dexter's existence, so his action went unnoticed. But a masked man slamming his trunk shut while holding a syringe, now that'd be hard to miss, and a very good reason to call the cops. And from there on, it wouldn't be a stretch to assume that the man who suddenly disappeared and left all of his stuff on the bench was probably abducted by the masked man. Put two and two together, boom, Dexter is caught. Now let's take a look at another abduction that looks insanely risky, but only works because Dexter's nonchalant awe doesn't wear a mask. It's a flashback scene from season 5 episode 1. Dexter is out on a date with Rita, and he decides to do a little multitasking. This one also involves Dexter's trunk, but this time it's dark outside and there are no obvious witnesses to be seen. Dexter grabs the guy and he throws him into the trunk right in the restaurant parking lot. Now I gotta say that he is extremely lucky in this one because literally anyone could have walked out at any second. But throw a mask on him and that same luck wouldn't get him very far. In fact, it would be almost impossible to pull this off wearing one. Because the moment Dexter would have approached that guy wearing a mask, instead of expecting a normal angry verbal confrontation with a man that can't park, the guy would instantly know something isn't right, and he'd go into fight or flight mode, meaning that he'd either run, start yelling for help, or swing first. Either way, it would cause a scene right in front of the whole restaurant, and boom, it would be over for Dexter. Now you might be thinking, okay, I get it, a mask makes you look suspicious in the moment, but what about cameras? Because surely if you're doing something illegal, getting caught on camera would be way worse with your face fully exposed than with a mask on. But in Dexter's case, things aren't that simple. You see, Dexter's whole MO is to not leave a suspicion of a crime behind, and most security cameras don't get checked unless there has been a crime reported in the area. Meaning that even if Dexter were to get caught on tape doing something rather sus, no one would have a reason to pull the footage. And in the few cases where Dexter went completely apeshit on someone in the heat of the moment and actually did leave a crime scene and a body behind, he was lucky enough to do it in areas that don't exactly scream high security. But here's the thing, even the times when Dexter did get caught in 4K, a mask wouldn't have helped much. Because most of the times when that happened in the show, Dexter was seen using his own boat. So even though a mask would cover Dexter's face in a picture, his boat would still do a pretty good job telling on him. So basically, the few times when cameras do put Dexter in tricky situations, a mask wouldn't make a difference. And I gotta add two things. One, Dexter usually takes cameras into account when planning his kills, so he avoids them in the first place. And two, the time period where most of Dexter's kills take place plays a huge part. Because back then, there weren't anywhere near as many cameras as there are today, and the ones that they did have weren't anywhere near as advanced. The latest addition to the Dexterverse, Dexter Resurrection, takes place in 2022 New York, a massive city packed with surveillance, which in the upcoming season could result in some unjustifiable use of plot armor if not addressed. But because they introduced the camera shy hoodie in season 1, a hoodie with infrared lights that blocks your face on camera, Dexter has a perfect option to avoid being caught on tape, far superior to a mask. But what about the times Dexter actually did wear a mask? Was it better? Apart from the lion mask in season 6, Dexter is only seen wearing a mask at 3 separate times across all TV shows. And the first one is obviously from the very first episode, when Dexter wraps his head in clear plastic before killing Jamie Jaworski. And despite what it first might look like, this is actually a pretty good way to disguise one's face. Apart from the evident risk of suffocation, of course. Because even though you can see through it when you're close, just a few steps back and the reflection in the plastic blocks out the face. The real question here is, why bother? Jaworski is about to die anyway, Dexter covered all the windows in the kill room, and they are in a construction site at night with no one around. But even if there were someone around, the mask still wouldn't matter since he literally takes it off when he dismembers him. So I'm not even trying to be funny when I say this, Dexter wrapped his head in plastic solely for the aura. The second time we see Dexter wearing a mask, he actually upgrades to a real store-bought one. But it's not using it for a kill this time, but to scare some sense into the neighborhood vandal in season 4. And funny enough, the mask backfires almost instantly, because it made Dexter's neighbors mistake him for the vandal. So in that specific situation, not wearing a mask would have been better, but when it comes to the actual threatening of the vandal, who was also his neighbor, the mask was very much needed. Otherwise, it'd be pretty awkward running into that guy the next day. And the last time we see Dexter wearing a mask is in Resurrection. He is threatening to kill a lousy, rude landlord, so basically just a landlord, if he doesn't remove the mold in his apartments. And in this case, the mask serves its purpose perfectly. Dexter always intended to let the man go after giving him a good scare, so showing his face and risking getting identified later was not an option. In conclusion, Dexter doesn't wear a mask because the foundation of his entire serial killer MO is built on blending in. The less threatening he looks, the safer he is. After all, a wolf in sheep's clothing is a cliche for a reason. Let me know in the comments if you have a different take on why Dexter doesn't wear a mask. I'd be interested to hear it. And yeah, see you in the nästa video, så får du ha det så jäkla gött så länge. Hej hej hej.